Here with Shane Smith from Shane Smith and the Saints. We're huge fans of your music. Love your music. I want to pass it off to Wes though, because we actually had a really cool article on the site talking analytics about the effect of Yellowstone, and obviously you guys saw an amazing kind of reaction there. And Wes, you want to fill him in a little bit about kind of the way that author wrote about it?
Yeah, so we had one of our writers, the great Danny Katz, super smart Northwestern guy who much smarter than me or Steve, crunched some numbers on analytics and like saw kind of the way your guys Twitter followers, Facebook followers, music shot up on iTunes, Spotify,
right?
Play, Spotify followers. Like, what has kind of the Yellowstone effect like meant to you guys, and how has that really kind of changed like your following, new followers, everything like that?
Yeah, man, it's been incredible. I've mentioned this before in other interviews, but we had never had any kind of a placement at all, like ever before on film or TV until this. And anyways, they had reached out to us, I guess it was probably like 10 months ago or so, and said that they wanted to license the song. And so obviously we were really stoked because we're huge fans of that show to begin with. And but I wasn't really sure of what the aftermath would be of it. And they also mentioned that there was going to be like a shout out, like a band name potential shout out in the show, but I also didn't know necessarily what that meant. And yeah, when we were on the road when it aired, and we were in the middle of tour back in November, and it was a Sunday night. We were playing our first show in Virginia Beach, and the venue happened to have this big screen TV, really cool setup, but it was kind of hilarious. It was almost like a movie theater, like legit TV as their backdrop. And so we talked to the owners and we were like, hey, we're going to be featured on this TV show for the first time ever. Do you care if we do a watch party of Yellowstone for this episode? And then we play our show right after, and they were cool with it. And so we legit like sent a message out to our fans and like told the people that showed up at the door, like, hey, heads up, we're going to watch an episode of Yellowstone, like with the lights off and on this TV. And anyways, and we just like got drinks at the bar and just hung out with all the fans that just like stood out there with them and just kind of shot the shit. And it just made for such a cool experience. And anyways, and the feature didn't happen until like the last 5 minutes or something of the episode. So the whole time we're like watching it, like
their anxieties.
Shit, is this even gonna happen? Yeah. Like, I don't even know if we've got this right. And anyways, but sure enough, it finally ended up happening. And so it was just super cool. And like everybody just lost it whenever it finally happened. And but yeah, I think within a couple hours, or really like in real time, as that aired, I want to say it was like 10 million people or something like that saw it like in real time on the night that it aired to TV. And we pretty much immediately like went up to number one on Shazam, like, the Shazam app to like figure out what a song is that you hear. We were like number one in the world, I think, on Shazam. And that was the same week that Adele and Taylor Swift had both released their brand new albums. And Coulter Wall was also featured on the same episode, which he's been featured several times before. And he was at number two. And then it was like Taylor Swift and then Adele, I think, or something like that. But yeah, so that happened. I think we've gone up almost 400,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, like average monthly listeners. It's obviously like there's like Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that is obviously improved a lot. Not like that type of, not like those type of numbers, but it's definitely improved a ton. And I don't know how many million streams it had at like off the top of my head, but I know that song has had, I want to say, close to like 3 million streams more since November, whenever it aired. So yeah, I mean it's been insane, and I've just noticed like with like the opportunities that have come in like following it, the shows have no doubt been you know, a lot of the shows we've been doing lately have all been sold out, and I think a ton of that is to do with the show and to do with that feature. But it's honestly like just different opportunities that we're getting, and I'm curious, will this interview air? Like, is it in real time? Like, everyone can see it?
It's not in real time, but
probably late next week, maybe like next Friday or Thursday.
Then I can say this because, like, on Friday, we're announcing, like, we're doing the entire Whiskey Myers summer tour as direct support for those guys.
Oh, that's gonna be
I think
amazing.
it's like 45 shows, and like all of them are like huge, you know, like amphitheaters and stuff all over the US. And so we're doing literally that. We're like booked through pretty much like through September right now completely, and then we're going to take a little bit of time off the road September, October, and then November and December we're literally like finishing up right now in terms of our show. So it's just crazy. Like, I mean, normally you'd be booked out like, I don't know, like 6 months or 7 months or something like that. I feel like it's pretty reasonable, but it's I mean, right now we're almost like done for the entire year, like with shows, and so I don't know, man. It's really exciting, and it's definitely getting a lot of traction. My whole thing is I want to drop music like as soon as we possibly can, you know, to keep it, you know, to keep on all that, and so that's our plan right now is we're about to be announcing some new music dropping.
That's awesome. And yeah, you're not going to find bigger Whiskey Myers fans than us here in our, that's
for sure.
That's going to be a hell of a tour.
Dude, it's such a cool lineup, man. I'm seriously so,
I mean,
and we love those guys, and we can relate with them. I feel like we relate with those guys just about more than anybody else, you know, that we're surrounded with and that we play festivals with and things like that, just because they've been, you know, they've grinded their asses off for years and years before they started to see any kind of traction off of it. And I just really respect that a lot. It's a really hard road to go down. And, you know, me and my guys have spent, you know, we've spent our entire 20s for the most part playing to hardly anybody, you know, and just touring and playing Texas, and I'm like, you know, from New York to Washington State to through California to Florida, I mean, everywhere. And so we know what that's like to really, really work your ass off and not really get any traction. And then all of a sudden you get featured on something like this. And, you know, I'm not going to say that it's like the sole reason why things have gone well. Things were starting to go really well, really honestly, like even through the pandemic, it started our traction surprisingly started like picking up a lot. And then all of a sudden that happened, and it just, you know, I mean, it just did so much. So we're just super thankful, and I'm stoked to be a part of it. And I'm such a huge fan of Taylor Sheridan and like what he's doing right now, and like all the different projects that he has going on. You know, I want to say he's going to be a part of I think it's like 6 or 7 different TV series that he's working on right now.
Is it 8?
It's 8.
Geez.
Or maybe 8. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. It's like, how in the world? And plus he runs this cattle operation, and he is, I mean,
I don't know how
he's up there like by Rogan as like the busiest human being I could possibly think of.
That's a good comparison, actually.
No, seriously. I mean, it's like he's just nonstop, I feel like. And so anyways, I'm just beyond stoked, obviously, to be a part of that show and all that, but even more than that, just being a part of Taylor Sheridan's whole deal and the way that he's you know, placing these independent acts, specifically independent acts, you know, that aren't necessarily on major labels, and giving them a shot, you know, and it's just so cool to see that, because I don't think independent bands are used to seeing that, you know?
Well, and you guys were on it twice, right? Because the very next episode, didn't they like almost kick off with you guys again in the same song?
Yeah.
Which is kind of
they did the
unheard
same
of.
song.
I mean, that's a like a lottery ticket right there. It's like
dude, no kidding. And I want to say the song ran for 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was
on
like
the
a big
second placement.
scene.
Yeah, it was like, it's not like a normal placement. It was like for almost the entire song.
And like you said, he doesn't tell you right where it's going to play. Because I saw Tim McGraw talking about 1883, where they redid the Cowboy and is Cowboy and Me, right? They redid that version. And he was like, even Tim McGraw's like, I didn't know when it was going to go on. And literally it's like the opening scene of the first episode, I believe. So it's like, all right, they gave it to him early. But I can imagine my anxiety would be through the roof if I'm waiting and we're at the 55-minute mark and I'm just kind of like,
right.
But when it comes to shows, you're talking about Instagram and stuff, I was laughing. I made a note like, there's like the Shark Tank effect too. It's like a reality show. It's like people that go on that show and don't even get a deal, like their business goes up, right? So it's like all the music on Yellowstone is good. With Shark Tank has a lot of ridiculous stuff, but even that increases the, social media following or whatever. Or even like a show like The Bachelorette, right? These bozos go on there, they build up their like personal Instagrams and whatever. Like they just sell
protein powder.
But where this show is, it's obviously not a reality show, but it really moves the needle in a way that like matters. Like you said, independent artists. And I think that's how we built Whiskey Riff, was talking about a Shane Smith and the Saints type of music, where your mainstream average country media outlet will not talk about stuff that's not on a major label. We saw that fans care more about that by a lot. The Texas guys, whatever, way more than, what's the top 30 right now on radio? Nobody gives a shit. Like literally nobody gives a shit except the people writing checks.
Totally.
So
you're totally right. And
yeah, I mean, the music is good. That's why it matters too. That's kind of where I was getting at with the Bachelor comment.
No, for sure. It's I don't know, it's such a cool thing. And I've got to say, like, how proud I am to have the fan base that we have, because I feel like it's such a unique fan base. Like what you were talking about, where it's not like, if we hit some milestone, for example, it's not like our fans see us say, hey, we hit this milestone and like, oh, they're happy for us. They like, I mean, I think our fans, like, they feel like such a part of it, because they are such a part of it. Like they're the gasoline, we're the engine, it's like we've been, doing our thing and like trying to make it work and trying to make it happen. And then, but the entire time they have been the ones that have continued to fuel us and to keep us moving down the road. And they want to see us succeed. They want to see it hit milestones. They want to see the race all the way through, because they care. And it's like, man, how lucky are we to have a fan base that's like that, that genuinely cares. It's the coolest thing ever. And so I just, I can't give enough credit to our fans, because if it wasn't for fans like that, I don't know that we would still be doing it. I don't know that we would have had the resolve to keep it, keep our heads up or whatever, and keep trying to make it happen.
Yeah. And I got to compliment Wes here. You're talking about the Spotify. Believe it or not, we have the largest Yellowstone playlist on all of Spotify. Whiskey Riff does, even larger than the official Spotify Yellowstone playlist by about 2x. So you guys, don't worry, you guys are in there and we're doing our part as much as we can.
That's cool, man. I appreciate it.
We got like 120,000 followers, I think, on that playlist.
Wow, good for y'all, man. That's killer. I didn't realize that y'all were running that.
They update it. Is the US updating it after the episode?
I do it as I'm watching, because I watch it in real time usually. And so I'm just like, I usually know most of the music that comes on there. Every so often I'll have to be like, who the hell? I'll have to Shazam it. But for the most part, I'm just like, oh, this is Shane Smith. Oh, Whiskey Mile, Colder Wall. Cool. I'll throw that on there quick on my phone. But you mentioned like your diehard fans and stuff. Do you ever find that some of them hold you guys a little too close to the vest? Because like we've seen with Turnpike lately, they came back, they're selling out. I mean, they could sell out like friggin' arenas right now, the way they're drawing tickets. And some of the fans are like, damn it. Like I should have seen them when they were still playing clubs and bars because now they're big. Do you guys see a little bit of that? Like, I wish they would stay small so they could be mine kind of thing.
100%.
Like, it's nice, but it's also like, hey, I gotta make money too, you know?
Yeah, you want to take care of the family. Oh.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and so many of our fans, it's hilarious because, like, for the last decade or however long I've been doing this, and me and the guys have been out touring, like every single night, I used to just tell like I would be day pretty much every single night of every show I'm at the merch booth after the show, and I'm like shaking hands and like this sounds terrible, but like even during COVID I was just kind of like, I mean, I feel comfortable enough putting myself at risk, and I feel healthy enough as a person, and and I waited out. Some nights I wouldn't do it, but pretty much the entire time though that we've been touring, I've been behind the merch booth, and you directly get to know these fans like on a face-to-face like name basis. It's not like normal, and I can't tell you how many of our fans like straight up to my face are just like, God, I'm so stoked for you guys, but I don't want you to get any more well known than right
it's
now.
Like I just don't get it. Like that, it's always like the sellout comment drives us crazy, right?
It's brutal.
It's just like selling out. I always use this food example of I think it's Tyler Florence. Sorry, I'm boring you here, but there's basically this guy who has like a legit background in cooking. He had Food Network shows, but then he did a commercial for Applebee's. Like that's selling out. Like that, what you're promoting is dog shit. You're a chef that trained in like France and shit. Like that's bullshit. It is. You care about money. When like Luke Combs in the mainstream blows up, what are you angry about? Like if you're a fan of his, like people just kind of gravitated towards that. And for the mainstream, I'm like, good. It's better to be that than Florida Georgia Line or whatever. So I don't really know. Like, is it just people want to be able to stay in this? Because I like watching a show in a small bar, right? More than anything. I prefer that over a football stadium when it comes to a concert. But I guess if that was it, I'd be like, okay, I get what you're saying. But it's almost like what are you gaining by them being less known? I guess it's a very weird thing.
It comes down to that belonging. It's like that sense of community, that belonging. Oh, this is mine. I'm a Shane Smith fan. This is mine, and you don't want to let.
I was here. I put in way more time and way more shows than these new fans did. Like,
take it up with Taylor Sheridan.
On like, even on like YouTube videos and like on Instagram or whatever comments, like you'll see all these people like, with like a laugh emoji or whatever, like can't believe all these Yellowstone fans, these new Yellowstone fans, where have y'all been, like blah blah. And it's almost like even that is kind of like, come on, like
we get it too. We get it too when we post some new artists and they're like, you're late to the game, and then we got to go find our original post from 8 months ago, be like, no, you didn't pay attention. We posted about him 8 months ago, so it's always a thing, for us, like but I mean, that's pretty awesome. I'm happy for you guys with that. And Wes, I wanted to bring up the article you did about I don't know what year that was, but the crazy story with the truck and the dog.
Yeah, I wrote about it quite a while. It wasn't too long ago, I suppose, but truck stolen with your dog in it. What a fucking nightmare.
I got my dog right here, and I can't even imagine. Like,
dude, it was not cool. It was really it was rough. So my wife and I were celebrating our anniversary, and we went down to San Antonio, and there's this like super nice hotel in San Antonio that typically we would like never cough up the dough to stay at, but we're like, we're going to do this legit, and it's called Hotel Emma. And nothing against this place. I mean, it's incredible. It's just, it was unfortunate that it's where it all went down. And we were parked there and stayed a night. We were checking out the next day, and we're going to move on to this different hotel down at the Riverwalk of San Antonio. And anyways, we left our, it's like a newer F-150 is what I have. And so like you can leave it running and you can lock it from the keypad or whatever. And my little dog, like our dog Gretchen, like she goes with us everywhere. Like, and like I'll take her to the grocery store, or I used to take her like to the grocery store, everywhere. I'd leave the car running with the AC on, run in, grab whatever I'm doing, as long as it's like a 10-minute, 15-minute ordeal, and it's quick. Yeah, I didn't think anything of it, and the truck cab is like freezing cold with the AC on blast. Like I've never been all that concerned about it. And anyways, we went to check out of this hotel, put our bags in the car, started it up, got the AC cold, and then locked it and left her in there so that we could go back inside, check out, and look at these like photos that were in the lobby of like the history of the place, because it used to be the Pearl Beer, like that's like where the Pearl Beer like distribution center or manufacturing company or whatever, that's where it was located back in the day. And anyway, so we go back inside, get back out to the truck, and it's like probably 10-15 minutes or something like that, and my truck was just gone. And we were like, what the hell is going on? I was freaking out because I was like, holy shit, it got towed. And like, she's in the car and some tow truck is like just pulling the, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I thought had happened. And I had no thought in my mind though that it was stolen, because this place is like, I mean, there's people everywhere. It's such a busy spot, and people are walking through the parking lots, and like, and the restaurants are really nice. It's like a lot of like, just, it's not a shady operation over there. I mean, there's tons of stuff going on. And so, anyways, long story short, it ended up being stolen. I managed to, I remembered that I had one of those tile keychains, like with a GPS device or whatever. I had one of those on an old, keychain that I had in the glove compartment with all of our trailer keys and everything on it. And I managed to track it down to this parking garage over at St. Luke's Hospital in San Antonio. I couldn't get a ride. No, like the police officers there. I mean, it was really frustrating. They were being, I know that they were busy and stuff, but it's like, they weren't even willing to like give me a ride over to the parking garage. Like they wouldn't send a patrol unit there. Like, even though I was showing them like, hey, like this is where it's at.
Yeah.
Can you get someone to like block the garage or something so it can't leave? Or, I couldn't get anything. And I know that they were like super understaffed, and they had a ton going on that day in particular. There was like all these like, I guess, way more important calls going on at the time. And but it was really frustrating, and I finally had to get an Uber over to this parking garage, like 30 minutes on the other side of town. I get there, all of our stuff stolen out of the truck. She's not in it. And so then, it's like back to the drawing board. I was either going to have to tow it out of the parking garage, which I wasn't going to do because it was like low clearance. I don't even think they could if they wanted to. It was either that or wait till morning to get a locksmith. And so that's what I opted for. But before I left it there, I was like, because the keys weren't in it. I should have mentioned that. they had the keys with them, along with my dog and our stuff, obviously. And so I couldn't take it anywhere. And so we waited till the next morning to get a locksmith, and kept looking for our dog, obviously, all night till about 4:30 in the morning. We finally had thrown in the towel on that. And whenever it was before I left the truck, though, I put I got like 2 more of the new tiles, and put them in the upholstery up like behind like literally the back seat in the actual carpet. And I was like, look, if they're gonna come back for this thing, like I'm gonna have the most like legit one that I can get and have them in there. And so I put 2 of them. I activated 2 more of them and put them in there. And sure enough, that thing that night got picked back up, and I started getting notifications that it was moving. And the next day, you know, we didn't have any luck finding it. The next day, it's like the way that app works is like there's big gaps of like radio silence. It has to come near another tile user in order to send you a location. And so if it's not near another user, you just won't get a location update. And so it was like hours and hours within any kind of update. It was probably just parked somewhere else. But during that time, we were looking for my dog, and we were, I was doing like I had like 2 interviews with the local news station, and we had like this big reward out for our dog and all this stuff. And anyways, a girl ended up finding her on this like hiking trail somewhere out in this like wilderness preserve thing. And yeah, anyway, so that's how they, it ended up, I guess this girl was like planning on keeping her, and she didn't have her collar or anything. She thought she was just a stray, and she like named her a different name, booked her a groomer's appointment and all this stuff. And her little brother was like, hey, that's that dog from the TV. That dog's been all on the TV like all morning. And I swear that's how that all went down. And so anyways, I got notified. I didn't believe it, and because trolls and bots and like weird stuff there is going on right now in the internet, like all these people are sending us like fake ransom requests to get our dog back, and like it was so weird. Like it was so weird. And then like there was also all these people that were like just being shitty online, like in a moment where we're just freaking out, right? Like we don't have kids, like this is like our quote unquote kid, you know, and like goes everywhere with us. And people were like, oh, just another, you know, jackass trying to get like a publicity, you know, it's like a publicity stunt or something. Like it's like, what, dude? Like people are like savage on the internet now. And I don't know what to think of that. Like, I mean, just terrible human beings though. And people like saying they had her and like, you know, telling us to, you know, pay like a ransom in order to get her back. But anyways, yeah. So it was just, can y'all still see me? I was starting to break up a little bit on my phone. Anyways, but yeah, so we ended up getting her back right after I did this interview. They FaceTimed. The girl had called my mother-in-law, whose number was on all the flyers and stuff. And anyways, my wife managed to FaceTime me whenever she made it there and was able to pick her up and all this stuff. And anyways, it was crazy. It was, you know, super happy ending. The truck I didn't end up finding until days later. And I started getting notified on my phone or whatever from the tiles that I'd left in there. And it was headed straight down to Laredo because they can flip them like really easily in Mexico for like a lot of money. And the officer, it's crazy, dude. The officer at the time told me that there were 33 F-150s stolen every day in San Antonio, and every one of them ended up across the border for the most part, either through Laredo or through Del Rio.
Wow.
It's like, what in the world? And it's like F-150s, like in particular, there was like 33 a day on average in San Antonio at that time. And so anyways, managed to, you know, get the truck back eventually, but it was kind of screwed up. And I'm still trying to get like our home insurance to help us out on like our belongings, because we lost like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of stuff, like even like I've had to have like keys made for like all these different trailers and all these different like our old RV that we used to tour out of, and like my old truck and this, and it's just stuff you don't think about, but it's like
gotta replace.
Anyways, we're still trying to get repaid on some of that stuff just to replace it or whatever. But we're just glad we got our dog back.
I was gonna say, fuck the truck, right?
Yeah, like, dude, I could give a shit about the truck at the time. I was just like, even in the report, it was like I was reading the police report, and it's literally like, he really doesn't seem bothered at all about the truck, just wants us to focus on the dog. And I was like, okay, well,
no, seriously, like
not wrong.
The other day, like our door going into the garage, the wind kind of pushed it open, and I had the garage door open, and I'm like, I just like immediately have a panic. I think I was like, where's Maverick? Like, and I'm just by myself running around the house screaming, running outside screaming, and he's like sleeping like in the like upstairs somewhere, and he just like walks on all like gently, and I was like my heart's like coming out of my chest. I'm like, he ran off or some shit. I know he, like, knock on wood, I don't think he would, but if he saw like an animal, he'd probably want to go get it.
Dude, totally.
But the dog stuff is like, that started happening where Wes is in Chicago, like right where I used to live. There's like a swanky, like a vet clinic, and people were parking similarly, but it's like right there. It's like 10 feet walking into it.
Yeah.
And they might walk in or like be waiting or checking in or something with COVID. It was like a weird setup, and people would just sneak into the car because the car is running, and boom, take off, and the dog's in the car. It's just like, it's crazy. Holy shit. Like, I mean, at least like, I'm like, at least they left, like, probably had enough of a guilty conscience. They took the dog out of the car and like put it somewhere, but they could have probably just dropped it off at like a fire station if they were really nice.
Nice criminals.
Look at they fucking, oh my God. I got to assume a lot of these people too that are stealing the cars like don't know there's what's in it, right? Obviously, and then it's like, oh shit, like what would they do if there was a baby in a car seat?
Right.
Not take it.
I would think. I mean, like you kind of are just like, or you like stop at the corner and you're like, shit, you just get out and run. I don't know. I can't imagine. I assume you're not driving a F-150 anymore now that.
No, actually, I got it back after months and months. I finally got it back out of the repair shop and everything, and then I rear-ended somebody like like 2 weeks ago. It's like, what the hell is going on? And so it's like right back in the repair shop right now. So sucks, but is what it is.
Did they find the guy or guys? I assume it wasn't.
Yeah, man, they wouldn't give me any details on that, but apparently it was, I was told straight up it was a cartel house, and that it was this cartel house in Laredo that it was tracked back to, and they had like a history of, I guess, folks in jail that have been linked back to that house in Laredo, and they never had a search warrant to raid the house until my truck. And I
look at you.
I called them and was like, hey, like, I'm just letting you know, it's sitting at this house, it's sitting at this address. And if it's not in the driveway, it's going to be in the backyard, because they have, for some reason, the backyard of this thing has like this 10-foot tall fence or 9-foot tall fence. And it's, it's got this huge, like double wide, like gate that you can open almost like to drive vehicles back there. And so anyways, it was pretty crazy. And the officer came back to me and was like, I'll let you know what we find out or whatever, but we're planning on, we're getting a search warrant right now because your truck is there. And and sure enough, they made like a raid on the house, I guess. And but it took months before I got the truck back.
Jeez. Wild.
Well, cartel stuff is scary, because I mean, better that you guys all weren't in the car together. You never know. Like, some of that stuff, like how bad it could go. But
for sure,
glad the dog. What's the dog's name again? What'd you say?
Gretchen.
Gretchen. Yeah, I'm glad Gretchen's all right.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Maverick sends his best right here. He's sleeping. I don't know if you
deal.
can you see?
Hold on, let me flip it back. Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah. He likes to be
awesome.
He likes to be in on the podcast, so I got to bring him in here.
Is he just like attached at your hip like all the time?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we have a 1.5-year-old or almost a 2-year-old, and my wife and I. But him and the kid are getting so close. It's like the coolest thing to watch.
That's cool.
Like you feel like yourself through the little kid when you watch the dog and the kid kind of grow up. But yeah, super protective. So I got to be careful he doesn't attack some weirdo. You know, you'll get a weirdo around the stroller every now and then, and he doesn't like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for asking on it though. And
no, I forgot Wes wrote that.
Appreciate
article.
the
We were talking about it before we jumped on. I was like, oh shit, Wes brought it up, and I was like, I forgot about that.
Just trying to spread the good word, you know. We got a lot of Texas fans.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. No, I appreciate it.
Cool. Let's get back to the music. So you guys released the live album fairly recently. Awesome. I feel like it kind of really captures who you guys are as a band in such a way that I just was kind of like, shit. Like I've always been a fan, but I felt like that really kind of just almost like a new love in the sense for me personally. And then there's that awesome cover of Pancho and Lefty on there. What was the motivation for throwing that on there?
I mean, I just love that song. It's my favorite Townes Van Zandt song. You know, of all time, it's crazy though, like the way that whole thing came about. Like we did all that like on the fly, like essentially like it's too long of a story to probably like say like right now in this, but like pretty much like we went out to the middle of the desert. For those like who don't know what we're talking about, there's a live album that's called Live from the Desert that we released during COVID. And essentially we had been doing these like Facebook live streams and our fans were really appreciating it. And it got to a point where I was like, hey, I want to put something out that's like just super like original and legit for these fans that keep watching these like Facebook acoustic shows, but let's do like a total legit thing, like where it could even be an album if it turns out good. And let's just do it like in the middle of nowhere, like while we're in this quarantine thing, let's just find this badass landscape and do this thing. And I'd seen actually Bennett, our fiddle player, had showed me Coldplay did something similar in the Middle East that is just so cool to check out. They did it on a rooftop, I think I don't remember what the city was, but anyways, really cool to check out. And so kind of a similar idea, but I just wanted to do it in the middle of like the West Texas desert and out by Big Bend and Terlingua and all that. And so we go out there, we get this huge budget together, film crew, all this stuff. We get out there, the weather appears to be fine. We drive the bus out there. Miraculously, the bus could drive out to where this was. This guy had like I think like 200,000 acres of land or something out there. He pretty much owns a lot of that town of Terlingua, and he let us film out on his land. And so up on this like huge plateau though, that like kind of overlooked this. I mean, it was just a badass spot to film, but you had to load up like about 100, or like 50 to 100 yard, like huge, like hill of just dirt pretty much to get up there. And so we loaded all the gear up there. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning when they finally were done setting up the lights or not lights, but like cameras and the camera track and all of our sound and everything was plugged in. And we were going to sound check at about 1 in the morning and then wake up at about 5 in the morning or I guess 6. And we were shooting to the east where the cameras are pointed to the east. And and you know, so that the sun would rise up behind us while we were playing the set. That was the idea, and just have this badass shot, right? And anyway, so it's about 1 a.m. We get up to the top of this hill. The sound guys are ready for us to sound check finally, and all of a sudden, one of the directors of the project, the film directors, David Wells, reaches out to me because he was in town at this point. He was like, all right, we're done with the camera stuff. Y'all deal with sound and we'll be back first thing in the morning. Well, he calls me, and the town's like to the east of us. None of our radar apps registered any weather in Mexico, and we're right on the border of Mexico. Yeah. And so, and it's moving west to east. And so like we had no clue, but there was like this monsoon of a storm blowing in from Mexico. And he calls me and is like, bro, are you guys getting hammered with weather out there? Because like this shit showed up out of nowhere. I don't know what to think about this. And right as he was telling me that on the phone, I could just hear, you know how they say like a tornado sounds like a train, kind of like when you hear one coming, it sounds literally like a railroad, like a train. And it was legit similar to that. Like it's so quiet out there in the desert, and then all of a sudden you just hear this like moan, like droning sound, and you couldn't see it coming. You started to see like flashes and stuff in the distance. But dude, we got hit with a wall of sand pretty much, like about 70 miles an hour, I would say, easily 70, 80 mile an hour winds. And all of our shit just went everywhere. I mean, like drum kit is like rolling down the plateau. Like all of our road cases are laid over. All of like, it was just so screwed up. And so we managed to like, we had packed a bunch of tarps to be safe. Fortunately, we went to Walmart and bought like all these tarps like on our way out there earlier that morning. And so we were like taking rocks and like setting them on the corner. We didn't have stakes to like stake them in the ground. So we're like picking up big rocks and like laying them on the corners to cover up a guitar cab or a bass cab or the soundboard. And again, all this stuff is just wide open out in the middle of the desert. There's no trees to get under. There's, you know, and it's just crazy rain and wind.
Like whose idea was this?
But I feel like the sand getting into shit sounds miserable too. Like not even just
all of our like our guitar vault.
Yeah.
Our guitar vault right now, if you go look in our guitar vault, there's probably like just a half inch of sand across the bottom of it. But anyways, and so we managed to get everything covered up that we could, and then early that next morning we got up and pretty much just like did it on the fly. And I think it was about 8 o'clock once we had set up everything again. It went from like 5 o'clock getting up to about 8 o'clock. 3 hours later, we had it all ready to go, but the sound still hadn't been sound checked. And so we couldn't hear anything in our in-ears, like, you know, and when you're doing like 4-part harmonies and stuff out in the middle of the wilderness, like, you know, you normally need to hear each other, you know, to make sure you're not off. And, you know, on that note, it's a total miracle that it turned out sounding the way it does, because like legit, like when you listen to it, if you could just kind of imagine, like we had no clue like what we were sounding like. All we could hear was a drum kit and a loud guitar cab and a loud bass cab. You couldn't hear any vocals. You couldn't hear acoustic guitar. You couldn't hear fiddle. You couldn't hear, you know, anything. You just
hear
heard
that Nashville. Like, you hear that Nashville,
like, dude. It was so wild. And
you guys sound amazing. Like it almost sounds like a studio. Like in like a lot of it, like it sounds so well done.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. And Ben O'Neill, our engineer, just did a killer job mixing it. Anyways, but yeah, and like the Pancho and Lefty thing, the only reason we did any of that, the acoustic stuff, is because the storm blew back in after Little Bird in the full band show. We were going to keep playing, and then it blew back in. We're like, okay, we got to get into town and find somewhere inside to film another like 7 songs or so. And so the guy happened to own the chapel as well, in the ghost town, the old church. And they just like let us go in there, and we sat down. They set up the mics, they set up the cameras. I mean, legit, the guys were just sitting in the pews.
Yeah.
They had no clue what songs we were going to play. It was just on my lead pretty much. And if you watch it, the video, they never stop rolling the whole time. It's like, there were no like other takes or anything. It's just start to finish. And then the Pancho and Lefty song, Chase had actually never sung on that. And Dustin, I don't even know if he had ever played it before with us on guitar. And so that was like out of left field, but long story short, it worked out. And it's my favorite thing that we've worked on so far up till this point. But I highly recommend people go check it out.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, our fans have always said, like, you need to put out a live album. You need to put out a live album. And this was kind of our answer to that in a way. It's not a traditional live album, but it's still shot all live and it's raw. And I don't know, it's just really cool. And I can't wait for when all the videos are out so that we can put it to like, you know, a full length film type of thing to release, you know?
Love it. Real quick, Wes. We were talking about this before. Is that intro song? To me, when I heard it, I was like, is this Last of the Mohicans? It is?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We've been doing it. Okay. Yeah, so it's like literally
that song was on my workout playlist in college. Like I was so into it I'm only like 30, I think I'm 33. I forget how old I am.
Yeah, same.
I love the movie. Like love the movie and love that part of the movie when that song comes on. I was like, holy shit, this is like amazing. And then I was listening to it, I was like, wait a minute, I know this. And for like 10 minutes before Wes and I prep for the podcast, I'm searching. I'm like, is this shipping up to Boston? No, it's not that. Is it? Like, yeah, dude, and then it just clicked. I go, oh wait, this is Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, me and all my brothers, my family, and like loved that movie growing up. And I've always thought it's just the most boss song ever to get like pumped up before you know something. And anyway, so when we used to play on 6th Street, like that's kind of how we started out, was doing these like long 4 hours, sometimes 8-hour residential sets of music on 6th Street. We would play that literally as the first thing every single night, and it just stuck and we never stopped doing it. And so for over like 11 years now, we've been playing that as like the first song we come out to.
It's like your
and UFC it just kind of sets the tone for the show, and it just like gets people stoked. But yeah, dude, I'm such a big fan of that movie, and we just kind of wanted to make like a rock version of that score.
Right.
And so anyways,
no, it's amazing. It's like we would joke around after like beers, like we'll tweet out, you know, what would be your UFC walkout song, or what would be your for you guys. It's kind of like the similar, right? With that song, it's like what's going to get the crowd going, what's going to get you guys going, and like that song's up there for me anyways. And then you guys do it. I'm putting such a nice little spin on it without making it too different. You know, you still know exactly what it is. And I mean, I did
sort of
like I knew what it was, but no, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Hey, real quick, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to like interrupt the thing. How long do y'all normally go for on these? Just because my wife's checking in on me because we're supposed to be meeting up somebody for dinner, and I'm like holding us up right now. So I didn't know if
you got like 5 more minutes, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. That's perfect.
We usually ask before we hit record. We should
have asked.
No worries. I thought it was 30 minutes, and so like I had like slotted that out or whatever, but that's on me.
I think our calendar said 45, but then I think most times it goes about an hour. But we'll wrap it up here.
We'll wrap up.
No worries.
I was gonna ask really quick too, just like with the 4-part harmonies, there's such a almost church-like feel sometimes with like a chorus, and it's big and it's booming, and then to see kind of that second part of the live album, some of those videos of you guys actually in the church, in the pews kind of thing, like it just felt like it worked so well. And it almost sounds like that was kind of an accident to be in the church even, but it was. Do you guys have kind of like a background in church music at all, or is it just like oh, we're just a 4-part harmony band, and we just kind of have that choral sound in a sense, because it's like big and booming and theatrical and almost spiritual. And I feel like I'm gonna get dunked in a lake somewhere and get baptized with a snake, you know. Like,
yeah, dude, man, it's I definitely grew up hearing a lot of gospel music. My mom had a cousin that was in like a contemporary like Christian band called Phillips, Craig and Dean. Back in like the 90s, they were a huge deal. And anyways, I listened to a ton of that music, a ton of like old like gospel stuff, and anyways, that, and I also listened to a ton of Motown growing up. Surprisingly, like through my dad, he listened to all kinds of like oldie stuff, and there's so much 4-part harmony in that stuff. And then my wife kind of like got me I don't know. I just kind of like didn't think about it for years and years. Like once I was in my 20s or once I was in my teens into my 20s. And then my wife was working out in Los Angeles and was doing stuff with like Mumford and Sons and you know, a lot of other just like killer bands that were kind of implementing that stuff again, like some of the harmonies. And so we started
Wes mentioned
like
with Mumford earlier. That? No, Wes mentioned Mumford earlier. Like we were trying to figure out the feel of the music, and it's hard to kind of pinpoint you guys.
Huge impact on me for sure. Yeah, they played a huge impact on me. Those guys, a lot of like the songwriters like Hayes Carl, Ryan Bingham, Ray Wiley Hubbard, you know, all the way even to like a lot of like alternative, like 90s alternative rock and stuff like that I'm really into. And so yeah, definitely a wide range of stuff. And the gospel thing and the harmonies, I think it all just, you know, it came together in a super organic way. Starting out when we were on 6th Street, we first started like trying out stuff. And over time, it just got more and more dialed in. And yeah, you're definitely right though. Like when we were in that church, it was like it was meant to be. Like the way it sounds in there, the acoustics of the room, everything was just so cool. And it was definitely kind of like a gospel moment there going on for a second.
All right. Well, Shane, don't want to get your ass to dinner. Don't want to piss off the wife.
No, thank you. I appreciate you understanding.
Yeah. Where are you guys headed to dinner? Good spot.
Texas. Honestly, I don't even know. I'm along for the ride. So
all right, cool. Well, buddy, we appreciate it. We're going to share the hell out of the music, of course, and hopefully we can have a beer in real life soon and not over Zoom. But thanks again for your time, buddy.
I would love that. Thank y'all so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Thanks, Shane. See you.
All right.
Thanks, Shane.